The Astros reached 70 wins in 2024 as they cap off a 4-game set in Baltimore with a series split. Personally, this series really should have been a sweep given how games 2 and 3 of this series went. But, overall, I'll certainly will take a series split. But, again, like I said, really should have been a sweep, but we're going to talk all about it. Stay tuned. So I'm certainly glad to see where the Astros are currently at as this trip continues on in Philly. It certainly won't get much easier than this, but let's talk about this series here in Baltimore. First things first, we're going to dive into a couple of injury updates, starting with Kyle Tucker. He did text Joe Espada. It was a rather long text that I can't really share in this video, but he did text him with an overall positive update. He is still continuing to rehab in Houston, so therefore he didn't travel with the team to Baltimore or Philly. And he's going to be staying in Houston at least for the time being. Dana Brown did say that there is a chance Kyle Tucker could return within the first couple of weeks of September, maybe in the beginning of the month or so, but we'll see what happens. Yordan Alvarez, who was scratched from Saturday's game with an apparent neck injury, I think it was neck soreness or stiffness or something like that. He unfortunately missed games 3 and 4 of this series, despite it being the possibility that he could play on Sunday, but that was not the case. Joe Espada did say that there is still the strong chance that he could play Monday, but again, we'll see. Next up after that comes Ryan Presley. Unfortunately, he did throw another bullpen on Saturday in Baltimore, but there's a very strong chance, like I said previously, that he could return to action once his minimum 15-day IL stint is up. And also Joe Espada did say that a rehab assignment will not be necessary for him. Meanwhile, as we look around this team otherwise, Hector Neris, who was previously a part of the Astros in 2022 when they won the World Series, and also in 2023 when they were bidding for their repeat, he was definitely a huge piece out of our bullpen those 2 seasons, and he had signed with the Cubs this offseason, and he had spent most of the season with them before the Cubs had DFA'd him last week, and he came back to the Astros. What do you know? And he made his first appearance with the Astros on Sunday, and he looked like his 2022 postseason self. And if he can continue that, then that'll be a huge momentum boost into our bullpen. But diving into the series itself, starting here in Game 1, it was all Astros in this game. They won 6-0 behind 6 shutout innings by Spencer Arrighetti. Yordan got the scoring started in this first inning, and then Ben Gamel, who the Astros had gotten off of waivers from the New York Mets, would collect 2 RBIs in this game, the first of which coming in the 4th inning to put the Astros up 2-0, and then the second of which would come in the 6th inning, get capped off as part of a 4-run 6th inning, capped off by a 2-run double by Shea Whitcomb, who would collect his first 2 Major League RBIs in this game. Overall, very good game for the Astros, and like I said, they preserved the 6-0 shutout against the Orioles, to making a statement early, so that was good to see. Going here into Game 2, the Astros would score 4 times in the 3rd inning. It started by a go-ahead 2-run home run by Altuve. The Baltimore Orioles would strike first, but that lead wouldn't last very long. The Astros would then carry a 5-2 lead going into the bottom of the 8th inning, but then Brian Abreu came in and allowed the Orioles to load the bases with no outs. And on the play before that, he had actually received a comebacker that I thought for sure he had caught in the fly, but apparently he didn't. Instead of going to second to potentially start a double play, he ended up going to third base instead. Before the runner on third base realized that he was about to get tagged out, he was able to scamper back to third base safely, and then disaster struck. Anthony Santander would hit a go-ahead grand slam to put those up 6-5, and this pitch really was not that bad per se. And then after that, the Orioles would then cement that with another RBI triple on the next batter to win this game 7-5. Overall, dude, this was a really, really frustrating game. It certainly was one of the reasons why that we should have swept this series, but didn't. And the pitch that Brian Abreu gave up the grand slam to Anthony Santander, it really wasn't a bad pitch, and I'm not going to blame him for that per se. But I'm going to blame him more so on the fact that he actually got himself in that situation to begin with, especially on the play before that, where, again, he should have tried to get at least 1 out by throwing the ball to second base instead of over to third to get the lead runner. Obviously, if you want to concede a run for an out, then that's okay. You're already up by 4 runs, so all you need to do is get outs. And if they're scoring runs in the process, then so be it. But like I said, very, very gut-wrenching loss. It certainly has defined what our season is, or the roller coaster of a season that we're dealing with here. But again, getting yourself in that situation, really not much of an excuse for that. So, but again, it is what it is. Here, hang on, my phone's about to die. Diving here into Game 3, unfortunately, it was more the same story. The Astros had a healthy 2-0 lead going into, I believe, the 6th inning, pitched by a brilliant game by Framber Valdez. The Astros would get their scoring started in the 1st inning with a leadoff home run by Jose Altuve, which would pass former Astro George Springer for the 2nd most in franchise history. So certainly getting to the top. Hopefully he can get himself to the top at some point, like in his career before he retires. We'll see what happens though, but one step closer, I guess. Jeremy Pena would then add on to that with a solo home run of his own. Those, unfortunately, would be the only couple of runs the Astros would score in this game. And granted, they may have had a chance or two to score more, but just couldn't capitalize on it. And then after Framber Valdez was going into the 6th inning, needing a quality pitch away from cementing his outing, and then Colton Cowser was the last batter he would face before getting pulled. He would roll over a slow tapper to John Singleton, but unbeknownst to John Singleton, Colton Cowser was hustling up the line, and he was actually able to beat him to first base, and John Singleton didn't realize it. But then disaster struck once again, as Jackson Holliday would hit a go-ahead 3-run double after being in an 0-for-20 slump, mind you. He would hit a go-ahead 3-run double off of Taylor Scott, who came in relief of Framber Valdez, and all 3 of those runs, unfortunately, were charged to Framber Valdez, and that would also snap the Astros' win streak of wins in games started by Framber Valdez, which that was a pretty big shame to see. I mean, again, these 2 games were rather the most gut-punching losses like in this series, and they're the reasons why we really should have swept this series, but didn't, like I said countless times throughout this video. But, overall, just really frustrating, and the Astros could not get a runner on base for the rest of the game against this Orioles bullpen, who, mind you, also coming into the series was not very good. But for the most part, they held the Astros in check when they were ahead, so it was kind of crazy. But the Astros were then able to salvage Game 4. It was a rather critical win in all around to finish the series in Baltimore to sit and seal the series split. Not in terms of both the series itself, the morale over the past 2 games, and also the ability to bounce back within this specific game, and also in the context of the division, considering that the Mariners had won their game against the Giants earlier in this day. The Mariners thankfully only gained 1 game over the Astros on the Astros over the weekend, but obviously this victory did show a lot of guts and quality in our ABs, and also defensively, considering that Zach DeZenzo, who was starting in first base, made a good line drive, made a good bloop drive catch in foul territory, but that wasn't even the best one. Mauricio Dubon's catch was honestly 10 times better than this. He was shaded more towards center on this play, but he was hauling ass towards left at a whopping 29.4 feet per second to make this catch, but also ended up having a nasty crash into that outfield wall. He would end up coming out of this game, thankfully, under his own power. Unfortunately, he is going to be sore come tomorrow, but doctors did deem him to be okay, so it doesn't seem like it's going to be too serious. So overall, not a huge problem for Mauricio Dubon, but personally, he did play hero in that role, given the fact that he crashed himself into the wall to make that catch. But Yusei Kikuchi had pitched in this game. Unfortunately, he still has yet to throw 6 full innings in an Astros uniform, and that was the case once again. But overall, he's still doing his job, so that's all I really would care about. The Astros would strike first once again in this series. It took it with a 3-run 4th inning, capped off by a 2-run double by Zach DeZenzo. But that 3-0 lead would sadly not last, as Yusei Kikuchi would give up a 3-1 blast to Baltimore to allow them to tie it back up. Obviously, right then I thought I was going to be talking about another choke job in this series recap video, but thankfully that wasn't the case, as Bregman and Diaz went back-to-back to break a 3-3 tie, and then Jake Myers, who came on to pinch hit for Dubon with runners on 2nd and 3rd and only 1 out, was able to hit a sacrifice fly to give the Astros a much-needed insurance run. It wasn't really needed, considering that Baltimore didn't chip at the Astros lead at any point in this game. Hector Neris would get the win coming out of the bullpen in his return with the Astros, and also Abreu was able to successfully bounce back after he had given up that grand slam on Friday. So Josh Hader would then convert his 28th consecutive save to seal the Astros victory and keep them up 4.5 games ahead of Seattle as they prepare to go into Philadelphia. It certainly won't get easier from here, but I still have confidence in this Astros team as they continue to try to make their push towards now their 7th full season AL West division title. And it should be a good one. Hopefully Yordan Alvarez can come back strong, and hopefully also Kyle Tucker can come back with a little bit of pop still in him as he prepares to try to hopefully finish off the season strong with the Astros, even though he'll have only played like 3 months or something like that. But that's going to be okay. Personally, dude, this Baltimore series really was honestly kind of fun. Even though it really didn't end the way I wanted it to, I'm still fairly confident in how we match up against this Orioles team, whether it's at home or on the road. But that being said, I certainly would expect the Baltimore Orioles to be a tough out this postseason should they make it there. I mean, they may have been swept last year, but don't let that fool you, because I mean, they have a bunch of young guys who certainly know how to hit. Obviously, I mean, they may be riddled with injuries like we are, but they're certainly ready, like I said earlier. Anyway, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed, drop a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. If you want to watch any of my other videos, click these ones above my shoulders. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed, like I said, and I'll see you guys in the next video.